Hey everyone, welcome to Wax Pack Wisdom, where we talk baseball history through card breaks and the cards we love. My name is Jake T. O'Donnell. Today we're opening this pack of 1988 tops as we continue our run through the top sets through the 80s. We are firmly in the junk wax era at this point, and let's see what we get. This is you almost certainly have some of these cards somewhere in your house. I promise you that. There's the gum. It's actually looks, I don't want to say appetizing, but it could be worse, right? All right, let's open these up like this. You kind of see the Spring Fever baseball there. Let's start with Calvin Schiraldi, a name that sends a chill up the spine of every Red Sox fan of a certain age. Calvin Schiraldi was on the mound in 1986. He was entrusted with a 2-run lead to try to get through to win the World Series. They needed 3 outs. The Red Sox had a 5-3 lead going into the bottom of the 10th inning against the Mets. He got the first 2 guys out, and then he didn't get anybody else out after that. And then Bob Stanley didn't get anybody else after him, and the game was lost. And then the series was lost the next day. Things were never quite the same for Calvin Schiraldi. Calvin Schiraldi was a teammate, I believe, of Roger Clemens at the University of Texas, and then they played together for the Red Sox. Schiraldi was a really good closer for the Red Sox in 1986. He was young. He was on the younger side, and he wasn't giving in that 10th inning with a chance to close out the World Series. It wasn't like he was giving up rockets to the Mets. It was, he was giving up line drives, but he wasn't like giving up. Wasn't getting rocked or anything like that. He just didn't quite get to the end of the inning. And John McNamara went to Bob Stanley, and so anyway, Schiraldi ends up getting traded. He's never quite the same after that, which is somewhat understandable. He ends up getting traded for Lee Smith. He's part of a trade that brought Lee Smith to the Red Sox, and then Schiraldi had a little bit more of a career after that. But unfortunately, that's what he's remembered the most for. But anyway, that's Calvin Schiraldi. Here is a Future Stars card for Jose Chico Lean. His nickname was Chico, and I remember watching him for a while. I wouldn't necessarily say he was a star, but he was a pretty good player for quite a few years. Chico Lean was. Okay. Next up is Chris Bando, who I don't know off the top of my head if he was any probably, I don't know if he was any relation to Sal Bando, but there you see your sort of example there of the great 1988 card style. It's one of my favorites. It's a classic. It's been replicated many times. I believe that in some of the videos that we've done for the 2023 Tops series, some of the Chrome series and things like that, they have replicated this set as sort of a 35th anniversary with some of the vintage look and feel cards. But Chris Bando, good example there. Pete O'Brien, the Rangers. Can't really say I know much about Pete. There is Kevin Bass, who was a pretty good hitter for quite a few years with the Astros. But let's talk about this next guy right here. That's Tony Gwynn. Hall of Famer. One of the greatest hitters to ever live. I can't remember who it was the other day, but somebody asked the question. So there was a sort of hypothetical baseball question asked of, who would you, if you were down by a run with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the 9th inning of a game, you were down by a run, who would you want up to the plate? And I saw somebody say Tony Gwynn, and I can't disagree because his bat control was ridiculous. You want to call him a singles hitter, you can. He was more than that. His 3,000th hit was a home run, I believe, right? He hit it up in Montreal. Or actually, I think I might be crossing him up with Wade Boggs, actually. So, but Gwyn had a great long career, well over 3,000 hits. I believe that he has the highest batting average of anybody that since Stan Musial retired. Stan Musial retired in 1963. The guy with the greatest batting average, the highest batting average since then, I believe, was Tony Gwynn. Unfortunately, Tony Gwynn was taken from us too soon. But just a joy to watch. Again, the best bat control like ever. The ability to just take a pitch on the outer half of the plate and put it what he called the 5.5 hole, which was the hole between third base and shortstop. He was a left-handed hitter, and he belonged to the city of San Diego. He was coached San Diego State baseball after. His son played in the big leagues, and just somebody that we miss to this day. But just a joy and a pleasure to watch him all those years. So, Tony Gwynn, and this is his All-Star card from 1988. Another Hall of Famer is Eddie Murray. One of very few players in baseball history to get over 3,000 hits and 500 home runs. It's a very short list. When they say the term Steady Eddie, I always think of Eddie Murray because that's what he was. He was a Steady Eddie. A lot of years with the Orioles, a few years with the Dodgers. He was also with the then Indians. Went back to the Orioles. Always was on good teams. His teams always seemed like they were in the playoffs, especially in the 90s, as he was sort of wrapping up his career. But love Eddie Murray. Great ball player. Neil Heaton with the Expos. You guys, if you watch one of my more recent videos, I did an impassioned plea for baseball to return to Montreal, and just for no other reason that we can just see these uniforms again. Man, gotta love those uniforms. Next up is Joe Niekro, the brother of Phil Niekro. Kind of not as good of a pitcher as Phil Niekro. Phil Niekro, of course, Hall of Famer. But Joe Niekro had a good, long career all the same. And a knuckleballer. Both of the Niekros were knuckleballers, of course. And this, of course, gives me an opportunity to talk about Tim Wakefield, who I'm recording this video in mid-October 2023. Shockingly, last day of the regular baseball season, news came down that Tim Wakefield had passed away. And Tim Wakefield was a huge part of my childhood as a Red Sox fan. And he learned a lot from the Niekro brothers, from both Joe and Phil. So rest in peace, Tim Wakefield. But, you know, the knuckleball hopefully will continue to live on. All right. Gene Nelson. I don't really know a lot about Gene. That's a name I do kind of remember. Darnell Coles was a pretty good player as well for the Pirates. Here's an interesting name in Red Sox history. That's Mark Sullivan. Mark Sullivan's dad was Haywood Sullivan, who played for the Red Sox. As I get through the 1959 set build, there's a very interesting Haywood Sullivan wrinkle to that set that we'll get to. But Mark Sullivan, he was either his son or his grandson. I think he was his son. And I don't want to throw shade at the guy, but his dad was a very important person in the team. He was like the team president, and he maybe got more chances at the big leagues than he deserved. I'm just going to leave it at that. But that's Mark Sullivan for you there. Rick Sutcliffe, one of the very best pitchers of the 1980s. An excellent starting pitcher. The stretch that he had in 1984 after he was traded to the Cubs, 16-1 in 50 innings. Let me focus that for you a little bit there so you can see. 16-1 in 50 innings, 2.68 ERA. One of the really, really excellent pitchers of his era, and had a really good, long, distinguished career. Very good. All right, next up is Sid Bream, critical part of the Pirates, and then also critical part of the Braves. Very famously scored on the Cabrera single to left field, and he didn't have his good knees. He had bad knees. He scores all the way from second base, the winning run, Game 7 of the 1992 NLCS, and but it was the fascinating subplot to that was that he had been with the Pirates. So, and the Pirates have not I have not sniffed the World Series even since. And then last one, Randy Myers with the Mets. At this point, I think he ended up going on to the Reds as well. So there's Randy Myers, really pitcher, good lefty. So anyway, let's finish this up after about 10 minutes here. It's a good place to stop. And we're going to show you the 2 Hall of Famers we got in this. 2 of the great hitters, 2 members of Major League Baseball's 3,000 hit club, which is not something you see every day. Tony Gwynn and Eddie Murray. That is going to do it for this edition of Wax Pack Wisdom. Tell us what you thought of this break. What's your favorite card we pulled today? Who's your favorite player? I'd say my favorite player is Tony Gwynn right there. If you have a story about one of the players in this pack, we'd love to hear it. Leave us a comment and let us know. If you enjoyed this video, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our Wax Pack Wisdom content. In the video description, you can find links to where you can follow Wax Pack Wisdom on all social media channels. You'll also find a link to a list of our favorite nonprofits and charities. If you enjoyed this video, please consider a donation to one of those organizations. It would mean a lot to us. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time on Wax Pack Wisdom. Take care.